Welcome to another episode of Independence for America. At Independence for America, we tell the stories of local and state independent candidates. I am super excited today to have Robin Brown on the podcast. Robin was recently elected to the school board in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is right across the river and a little bit to the east of Washington, D.C. Good afternoon, Robin. How you doing today?
Good afternoon, Mike. I am doing wonderful. It's Friday, so it's always a good day right before the weekend.
Oh, yeah. And I think we're all excited about the Commanders and Jayden Daniels, and they're going to be in the NFC Championship on Sunday. Are you and your family getting ready for the big game?
Oh, we're so getting ready for the big game. I'm going to be cooking. I actually just got my Commander sweatshirt in the mail. My husband said he came in, so it came in right on time. So I'm super excited, and we're just one game away from the Super Bowl. Can you believe it?
It's crazy. Well, I gotta figure out how to weave in the amazing season that the Commanders are having with underdog candidates who are running as independents, because there's really a lot of parallels there. So let's go back a little bit, and if you tell me a little bit about your childhood and kind of growing up and family and values and things like that.
Absolutely. So again, my name is Robin Brown. Thank you so much, Mike, for having me on your podcast. I'm super excited about the independent movement, and just a little bit about me. I am the oldest of 4 children in my family. I am first generation American. My family is from the country of Haiti. And so we were the first to pretty much figure out what this new world was about, what the United States of America was about. And so what an awesome opportunity. I thank my grandmother to this day for doing this, because I still think this is the greatest country in the world. I did not come from an affluent background. So my family, essentially, we're first generation kids, but we're also first generation college students. We're first generation graduate students. And so education was definitely something huge in my family. They knew that this was the ticket, is what they call it, out into the world, and how to be just wonderful people in the U.S. But most importantly, my parents were very big in making sure that we looked out for our community, not just ourselves, and understanding that this world is bigger than ourselves. So I would see my dad. I remember growing up, we would be in DC, and my father always had cash to give to the homeless population. And I always thought that was like the most bizarre thing. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't scared. He wasn't apprehensive. He was just always ready to serve. And so I think a big part of why I am the way that I am when it comes to service to my community is because the examples that my family and especially what my father set.
What a great story. And we really are a country of immigrants. And I really like your story. A little tidbit about Haiti for me is my son is 25 right now, but when he was 17, he took a church trip to our sister parish in Haiti. And it was absolutely a transformative experience for him. We probably didn't really know what we were getting into. And it was, about a 3-hour drive from Port-au-Prince, and it was way off on the western side of the island, and it had recently been hit pretty hard by a hurricane. But the whole sister church thing is really important, and we've helped them create a well and a pump for the well and things like that. Sadly, the violence has just gotten so bad there, but hopefully we can reconnect. Do you still have relatives back there too?
Yeah, I still have relatives back there. And, the last time I was actually in Haiti was in 2018. And so I would love to go back to see my family. Unfortunately, outside of the even state ban that we have, it's very dangerous, and it is not ideal to bring anybody down to Haiti at the moment. But when I say it is a hidden gem that I wish everyone can kind of experience, of course, when they go back on their feet and things get better, I definitely look forward to seeing my grandmother. I have an uncle that's down there. I have an aunt that's down there. I have cousins that are down there. So, it's home to them.
Yeah.
And they had opportunities, obviously, because most of us are in the U.S. They just wanted to be home. And so they, decided to stay. And so we're just praying for them and making sure and checking on them. And it seems as far as now, everybody is okay. But this is the
Anything can
world they live
happen.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about like your college years and then settling down in Prince George's County. And I
Yeah.
believe you work for the federal government or maybe a contractor. I'm trying to remember there.
Yeah. So no, I am a full-time federal employee. I work for FEMA. I write policy for the financial policy branch of FEMA. And so we're always busy when it comes to travel, understanding regulations, sharing those type of regulations with the FEMA team, with the reservists. And just a little bit of a background. So I actually have my undergrad degree in criminal justice from Liberty University. I also got my master's from Liberty University in human services counseling with a concentration in criminal justice. I love to write. And so I'm actually in the process of getting my doctorate in education with a concentration in traumatology. And so writing has always been my passion. Research has always been my passion. And so when I got the opportunity to write policy, I was like, absolutely, I will take it. So that's kind of like where my background was. My first policy that I ever wrote and ever invested in was for the Flint water crisis in 2018. And I think it was very transformative because I had to learn a lot about areas that didn't look like mine, areas that didn't have the same luxuries. I think that's the best way to put it. And understanding different parts of the US and how people were actually really struggling.
Yeah.
And, part of the background when it comes to policy, I did write policy prior to FEMA. I also wrote policy for the United States Public Health Service. And so I learned a lot about uniformed services. I learned a lot about armed forces and services as well. And, just the dynamic of that and understanding regulations when it comes to travel. So I'm very, very big when it comes to understanding the regulations that we have as far as, how long you can stay in a TDY. TDYs are nice, but at some point it needs to change into a PCS. So Mike knows the lingo and understanding. And then prior to HHS, because that's where the United States Public Health Service is, I was a partnership specialist, but I also was the congressional lead for the state of Maryland for the United States Census Bureau. So it was a wonderful opportunity. I got to learn a lot about the state of Maryland. I was super excited about getting constituents ready and geared up for the 2020 census at the moment. And so we're coming soon to the 2030 census. And so I'm super excited about that. But that's kind of a little bit about my government background. People always ask me, how did you get to Prince George's County, where I don't know if I had mentioned before, I grew up in the DMV. I grew up in Virginia my entire life. And so I was born in Fairfax Hospital. I grew up in Fairfax. I grew up in Woodbridge, Virginia. I've lived in DC. So DC, DMV is my home. I tell people I will never leave this place. I love this place so much. But Prince George's County in particular, it's not how I got here. It's who brought me here, right? I met my wonderful husband in 2011 and fell in love. We got married in 2013. And he actually grew up in Prince George's County. He is a product of Prince George's County Public Schools. And I think he did pretty good coming from the public school system. And so that's kind of a little bit of a background of kind of how I got here. My husband and I have two children. We have a 17-year-old. He just turned 17 last week. And we have a 15-year-old. So we have teenage boys.
Well, it is interesting about the census work because I bet that really kind of gave you a little taste of campaigning, just, getting to understand a lot of different types of people and talking to people. So tell us the story about how you got involved in local civic activities and then finally decided to run for school board.
Yeah, so when it came to the United States Census Bureau, I learned so much about constituents, and I want to make sure that I bridge it together between the census as well as running a campaign. Working when any civic engagement, people want to know that you're listening to them. They just want to talk. They want to feel heard. They want to feel listened to because for so long, people have ignored them and people have not fully understood where they were coming from. And they just want to know that number one, they're not crazy, right? But number two, they just want to know that somebody actually cares and understands and can resonate of what they're going through. And so I heard a lot about that in the campaign. And there's people that you're going to meet, whether I worked for the census or campaigning, that were very angry, at the system and how things manifested throughout the years and how they would ask for change and things did not happen the way they thought it was going to happen. And I understood the frustration. I understood why they felt that way. And I never came off as better. I always kind of made sure that I was understanding their level and understanding and also acknowledging and helping them understand where I was coming from. Did we see eye to eye on everything? Absolutely not. However, there was a level of respect that people had, even if you understood and believed in things that were opposite. Not all of us have the same beliefs. Not all of us go to the same churches or, go to the same grocery stores or raise our kids a certain way. But at the end of the day, education for our kids in my community was non-negotiable, right? Regardless of what side of the aisle you are on, everyone needs to be educated. Everyone desires for their children to have the best education possible. And so that essentially was the common ground that I saw. I will say as a federal employee, we have to follow something called the Hatch Act. So,
I definitely want to talk about that because I don't know if you remember, but I was a federal government employee when I ran in 2021, and I was also at the time in the intelligence community. I sent an email to the Hatch Act people. I said, "Can you write me a legal opinion?" And they wrote me this beautiful like 3-page document that line item by line item that you are running for a local office. The office is nonpartisan.
Yep.
Here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. And I had to show it to my boss and my boss's boss and everything. And they're like, yes, you can. So just another quick aside is I was down in Richmond a few days ago. Mm-hmm. Every single year, somebody puts forth a bill to make local races partisan. Right. Mm-hmm. And every single year I have to send comments and testify to say, you are going to you're going to not allow federal government employees to run for local office if you do this. And every year it's gotten close every year, but we always defeat it. So it's really important.
Good. And keep fighting that because I don't think people fully understand. We pay taxes just like everybody else. We serve the United States people just, this is what we do. And to have that opportunity stripped from us, it would be detrimental. Now, I know.
I mean, because people talk about losing the right to vote, but losing the right to be a candidate for public office is also disenfranchising
Absolutely.
people. And everyone should be able to run for local office. And, as long as you can work it into your job and everything like that. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
So I'm glad that you said that, Mike, because the one thing that I tell everyone about running for office is I say, everyone needs to do it. Just try it.
Absolutely.
Just see how it feels, fully understand the process because there's no other feeling like it. You cannot describe it unless you actually go through it. And is it hard? I tell people too, this is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. However, it was the most amazing, most rewarding, obviously, because I won, but I was challenged. And I think when we meet levels of our life and we're like, oh, we've accomplished this, we've gotten this, we've done this in our lives. But to go through something like a campaign, not a lot of people can say they've done that. And so I definitely encourage everyone to please run for office. Local, obviously, is going to be the most important because guess what? That's where you're going to be most affected. Now, yes, I'm not saying all the other positions aren't great, but local is where you really feel it. You feel it in your pockets. You feel it in your children's education. I mean, every level. I mean, down to
Police and
snow removal.
fire, snow removal. Absolutely. Yeah.
So all the things. And so I definitely encourage, and I guess I can talk about too, like what got me into it. I will tell you. So when
You have a funny story with your son here. We got to hear about that one.
yes. So, I'm a mom, mom do mom things. We love to nag sometimes. And I think this kind of, my teenager at the time, he just had enough. He was like, this woman just won't stop. So, believe it or not, my son is, in ROTC. And he is very interested in going to the academies. And so I'm trying to get him prepared. This is ninth grade, man. Start joining clubs, run for office, run for SGA. I'm giving him a rundown as
A
what I
list,
think he
right?
should do. And I said, you should really run for SGA. This is a great opportunity for you to understand civic engagement. And we were at a stoplight and he looked at me and he said, Mom, you're always telling me to do stuff. Why don't you run for office? And a part of the mom in me wanted to wring his neck. But I said, you know what? I would never tell my child to do something that I wouldn't do. And so
Right.
that week I went to the office and I said, are there any local positions available that I could run for? And she said, you're in luck. They got school board open. And so there were actually 4 people that were running for school board. And so our ticket was
In
pretty low.
your
In my
district,
district, yes.
that's a lot for
It's a
one district.
lot
Yeah.
of people. And so,
Yeah. That's crowded.
it was the incumbent and 3 other women who were on the ballot. And so we fought hard and, we made it through the primary. And I'm super excited because I'm like, I made it through a primary. And I think this is why I love the Good Party too, is because it wasn't about the amount of money I had. It was about reaching the voters. And primary, I think I had $1,200, which can barely buy pizzas for volunteers at this point.
Yeah. Yard signs. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine? And so I was very fortunate that I had one endorsement. The endorsement was the teachers union. So, and I also that's another part of my resume. I was a former educator. I taught first grade. And so that was another reason why I resonated with a lot of families and parents as far as running for school board. And so me running for school board, they got a parent who's in the public school system currently. They had a former educator and they had someone who wanted the best for PGCPS period. And so I tell people they got the trifecta. And the beautiful thing is I write policy for a living. And so part of the school board position is to implement policies and to write policies. And so a lot of people are like, oh, we have somebody who actually knows what she's doing. Great. And so this was another opportunity as well. But yeah, it was brutal down to the end. I commend all the people who ran because my district.
It makes you be sharper, right?
Absolutely.
You got to be on your toes. Yeah.
All the time. And you have to have an answer. And, I've always been a big person and a big proponent of, hey, whatever you go for, be a subject matter expert in that. Fully understand, fully engulf yourself in what you're getting into. Fully understand, hey, these are the issues that my constituents have. This is what I really need to fully understand and see how I can tackle this moving forward. One of the greatest things that I learned too during this is asking for help. I am the person that's like, nope, I'll do everything. I'll set it up. At some point you're going to burn yourself out. And I had the greatest experience. I mean, constituents, they would see me at the polls and they would just come with a Chick-fil-A bag. You look like you didn't get anything to eat today. I just wanted to and it was just like, oh my gosh, and I had forgotten that, it's 2:00. I hadn't eaten all day because you're so amped up and adrenaline, but you really understand the sense of community when you're running for office as well. So I really had a great experience, but it was hard. It was definitely hard. So
So you talk a little bit about this is important for as you're creating your brand and your website and everything like that, your bio. When I was running, and I don't know if somebody else pointed it out or I figured it out myself, but I was one of four candidates, including the incumbent, similar to you.
Yeah.
And I realized that I was the only one out of all the candidates that had children.
Yeah.
Right. And I was also had the longest time living in Arlington. So I talked about that a lot. It's like, hey, I was your daughter's softball coach, and I was your son's soccer, your baseball coach or something, and just really, kind of explaining to the voters, I'm one of you, and I've been, not only am I a full-time employee and a dad and a Navy Reserve officer, but I've also been very civically engaged. So a lot of people, they get a little too wonky. They think policies are the most important thing. Right. It's not. It's actually, have you rolled up your sleeves and been part of your community for a long time?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that, because I'm very involved in my church as well. I'm part of the lay organization. So we're just layman people trying to educate the public. And for years, we would educate individuals on how to run for office. We would hold forums for local elections where people can talk and discuss, why they're running for office. And I just learned, but it's funny that you mentioned the part where you roll up your sleeves and talk to voters, right? There were times, Mike, I was at that polling spot by myself, and, I needed three things that I could say where people could really remember who I am when they got into that voting booth. And I remember just
you got 10 seconds.
You got 10 seconds.
You got to kill your.
And I would say, hello, everyone. My name is Robin Brown. I'm a Bowie High School mom. I'm a Charles Herbert Flowers mom. I write policy for FEMA for a living. And guess what? I'm just a mom trying to figure out what's going on with our public schools. I hope I can get your vote. That was it. And, people will come out and say, if you never said that, I would have never voted for you. I would have never known who you were. I would have skipped it, because, people have options to not even go down the full ballot. They could have skipped it, because the ballot sometimes is so loaded with so many names that people just are like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm just voting for president and I'm just going to submit my ticket,
walk away.
And that's it. And, that meant a lot to them. That meant a lot to them when they hear Bowie High School, where I live. They said, my kids went to Bowie High School, or I went to Bowie High School. My grandkids go to Bowie High School. So those type of things, like you said, it resonated with the voters. And so, I definitely can appreciate. They didn't care that, the incumbent had been in the county for X amount of years. Their issue was her kids were in private school. And not that there's anything wrong with that. They said, well, how could she understand what we're going through when her kids don't even go to this, public school system? And so that was an understanding that a lot of parents had, and they wanted to see more parent involvement, Prince George's County public school parent involvement, because they knew that they understood firsthand what was going on in the school system. And so that's why I got the turnout that I got. Absolutely.
Yeah, my tagline was, hi, I'm Mike Cantwell. I'm going to bring an independent voice to the Arlington County Board. Right. That was my line. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little about, the independence movement, and why do you think it's so important? And, are you dissatisfied with the Republicans and the Democrats at this point?
Yeah, So I love the independent movement. I really do. I mean, so I tell people, as a federal employee, we have to run these nonpartisan races because we serve the American people, right? It doesn't matter who's in office. We serve the positions that we hold are for the American people. And of course, we have to uphold the policies and things that are with the current administration, right? However, I have seen nastiness from both sides. And I'm like, this is absolutely getting ridiculous. You have Republicans who can't talk freely. You have Democrats who can't talk freely. And it has become a situation where it's very difficult to talk about politics in this country. I don't know where it came from. I could tell you a little bit of a background. Even with me, I noticed that my first election, I voted for Bush W, but then I voted for Obama. And so I saw that. I was like, wait, there's times I can follow this depending on what my life is right now. At the time, my life resonated more with this administration. But as I got older and had children, my life kind of resonated with this administration. And so I never could fully commit to one party. I will say that living in the state of Virginia for the number of years that I did growing up there, we never had to affiliate with.
That's a good thing about Virginia. Yeah.
Let me tell you, when I moved to Maryland and I tried to vote for a county executive race, they said, oh, no. You cannot vote because you have to choose the party to vote in. And to me, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I said, that is incredible. So in the state of Maryland, unfortunately, you have to be affiliated with the party.
Right. You have closed primaries.
We have closed primaries. And the beautiful thing.
But you can vote for whoever you want to in the general election.
Absolutely.
But as we all know, the primaries are where a lot of the action is.
Absolutely.
People are determined. Yeah.
And because obviously school board is nonpartisan, that's the only way that people who are unaffiliated or independent could actually vote and have a voice. I will say my district in particular is 85% Democrat, 85% Democrat. And so, again, I would always tell everybody, it does not matter what side of the aisle you're on. I'm here because I care about our kids and the education. Education should not be politicized. I'm sorry. I think that's just absolutely ridiculous. And so I could never fully commit to one side. And like I said, I probably have Virginia to blame for that because Virginia allows you to somewhat be independent. But even being in a space where I don't see a lot of independence, that still didn't deter me from going forward and doing things in what I believe in. Because at the end of the day, like you and I can say, Mike, people care about not the politics, but what you're going to do for them. At the end of the day, what's in it for me? How are you changing the system? Because throughout all the years, they've seen, yes, Democratic 85% in Prince George's County, but they have also seen the detriments of what the Democratic Party has done in their community. And so they weren't fully sold either. Yeah. Yes, they're affiliated, but they're not fully sold on the idea as well. And I guess as the oldest of the family, I was always the rebel. And so I never subscribed. I always kind of wanted to be independent anyways. And so it is very difficult for me to say, this is who I belong to. This is what I'm with. And independent is essentially just who I am at the base of who I am.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I get a little mad at the voters who don't do their homework before they get to the polls. Yeah. I mean, you got to be kidding me. It takes a minute to look up somebody's website, maybe look at some newspaper articles on all the stuff we had to do.
Yes.
And how you could even have emailed the candidate and say, hey, what is your position on X? I always responded to every email that I got while I was campaigning. But you know what? They know more about the Kardashians or Jaden Daniels or something than they do about their local elected leaders, right? And we just have to get back to this, civics, and it's your civic duty to be informed and to participate.
You make a good point, Mike, because unfortunately, I think that the system, and I put this in quotes, they thrive on voters not knowing.
Voter apathy. Yeah.
They really thrive on that. And name recognition has become so easy for people that they're like, they'll remember my name. I don't even have to work hard. There's a particular congressman in my area I will not name. I have contacted this office numerous times. You think I got a call back? No. You think I got an email back? No. Why? He's been in office for so long. He doesn't have to work anymore. He doesn't have to do anything for the public. But because everybody knows his name, listen, he'll be in there all the time. And so it's
Well, and
unfortunate.
he's busy looking up because he's in leadership, but
Yep.
he's not looking out to his constituents. So.
And I tell people all the time, when people ask the difference between myself and the incumbent who ran, I did grassroots. My campaign was from the boots up, and hers was from the top down. And people saw that. People saw that, she had a lot of connections, a lot of people pouring in, money, but people still respect grassroots elections and candidacy because it is so important for people to really understand voters. I mean, I had people tell me, oh, nobody's ever going to open the door when you knock on it. What? People were they were like, oh my gosh, I've never had a candidate knock on my door.
Yep.
And just because of that, I'm voting for you. It was just like, wow, you took the time to come walk. I mean, I think I did about 30,000 steps a day.
It's good for exercise. Running for office.
Mike, let me tell you, I lost 8 pounds. Okay, and I keep telling you want to lose weight, run for office.
Run for office. All right, let me bring me into like election night, because it sounds like you had your winning was an upset, right? So you're looking at the results and give the viewers a little bit of a inside look about that.
Yeah, so so the early voting is possibly the most brutal week. That is the part that I think everybody should really pay attention to, because early voting has a lot of people. I think people underestimate what early voting can do, but early voting is where you're going to get the bulk of your votes. Now, and mail-in votes, of course, was another one, but early voting. And so I spent a lot of my energy on early voting. I was there from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day.
Wow.
I took the week off of work because that is how bad I wanted it. And I needed everyone to see that I was there and my face was there. Now, granted, my opponent at the time, she had help. She was a part of Team Angela Also Brooks, who actually won. And so she was able, because she was also endorsed by Angela Also Brooks as well.
Wow.
She was able to have that name recognition. Of course, Prince George's County is a huge supporter of Angela Also Brooks. And so she kind of thought she had it in the bag. I think that's the best way to say that. Now, on election day, we were out, the night before, my husband and I went to every school that I would be representing and put yard signs, 3 or 4 yard signs. And, we, again, as I said, I think the most my campaign raised in the 11 months that I ran was $7,400, so close to $7,500. And so we did the best that we could to essentially stretch that money out. And so we put signs at every school that I would be there. And so that's election day, because most people are off. That's where I had the most help. That's where I needed the most people. And so I essentially let people know, hey, I need you here. I need you here. And I had everyone working shifts. Now, when everything was all said and done, 8 o'clock at night turns, you go, you get home, you sit. And when I found out I won the early voting by 2,000 votes, that's when I knew. I said, wow, she had nearly 20 people a day working for her. There were times of course, my husband was there after work. There was just me. And it just, now on the weekends, I had a wonderful community who helped me. But, early voting is what people work. And so, but because I wanted it so bad, I was willing to sacrifice. I was willing to sacrifice sleepless nights. I had 3 pairs of tennis shoes that I had to switch off of. I did what I had to do, and so people saw the hustle. People respect the hustle. They respect people who are, and my opponent, I hate to keep bringing her up, but I remember one day she said, she rolled around 9:30, 10 o'clock, and she looked so well rested. And I was like, oh, must be nice. I've been here for 4 hours.
All right, we keep hearing about Jaden Daniels' work ethic, so I think I'm going to give you a new nickname. I'm going to call you Jaden Brown.
There you go.
For your work ethic.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
All right,
that.
so we're going to go ahead and wrap up now. Yeah. I want you to look right in the camera, and I want you to inspire everyone around the country who's like, I really think I could do a better job than who's up there at school board or a city council or county council or something like that. So give your best pitch to everybody out there, and especially the independent part, right?
Absolutely. To all my independents out there, I hear you. I see you. Listen, I'm rooting for you. Do not be discouraged. It does not matter what your community says as far as the stats. I come from an 85% Democratic community. That did not matter. I was still able to win my race because people believed and people who wanted change. People are tired of seeing the same political figures not care, not do the jobs that they said they were going to do. Independents really have an opportunity to show we're not here for the status quo. We're here to make actual change. There is nothing special about Robin Brown. I said, hey, I saw something. I wanted change. And if you were a talker like me or a complainer like me, then this is probably the best opportunity for you to go out there and speak on behalf of your community. People need to hear you. People need to hear your voice. Do not be discouraged. Do not let fear overtake it. Listen, you can do it. Believe it or not, you can do it. And so make it happen.
All right, Robin. First of all, I'm going to say thank you for your service as a federal government employee in FEMA. And thank you for your service serving on the Prince George's County School Board. So to my listeners out there, thank you for listening to the Independence for American podcast. And we hope that everyone subscribes and maybe hit the donate button and throw me a few bucks. I really appreciate it. So, Robin, thanks again, and hope to meet you in person sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mike.